You're listening to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, the show that proves no one stumbles upon success ever. With your host, Lou Need. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we deliver cold hard evidence behind the power of a robust morning routine. Get ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lunid, and today I am elated to have a phenomenal guest to the show, Dmitry Dragilev. Now, he is a SaaS founder and content marketer who built and sold 4 businesses to Google, SEMrush, SEO Jet, and Mangools. He founded Topic Ranker, Small Biz Tools, just reached out, and I'm talking about like real big businesses, and helped scale Polar Polls to a 4 million plus monthly page views before they got acquired by Google. Now, Dmitry has also helped brands like the Dow Jones and Pipedrive rank #1 on Google. And today he's going to tell us about the strategies. He's going to tell us about the lessons behind building and scaling successful businesses. So I'm really excited to have him on. So with no further ado, Dmitry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's my pleasure. I mean, you have come such a long way to have 4 businesses. Tell us about that. Like you were telling me offline that, you came here from Russia at the age of 11 and you've built such humongous success since then. Tell us about what got you into the SEO, the field of work that you're in.
I was just not happy at my job. I graduated in the computer science field and I quickly started working as an engineer even before my graduation. And I just was not happy. I didn't like the routine work. I didn't like the bureaucracy of the company. And so I was reading this magazine. It was called Web 2.0. It was about these startups and these businesses where young kids were raising money from venture capitalists and creating apps, and I was like, what is this culture of people that are just kind of hanging out with their friends, building websites and making money, and that's what they do for life? Like, that's how they contribute to the society? How's this work? Because I always thought that, you graduate, you get a job, you just crank your way through the job day in, day out, you suffer, and that's part of life. You build your character, and that's it. That's what you do. And I was like, my gosh, that's wild, this entrepreneurship thing. So I was dating my girlfriend and now my wife. We moved out to California to try and take a look at all that. She was going to grad school. So I said, I'll go to grad school too. But I really wanted to meet startups and figure that out. And that was the start, really. That was the pivot. I met a startup, and this guy, Mrinal Desai, he was running this startup. This is 2006, 2007, and he was starting this company, and it was a startup, and he needed some free help. And I was like, sign me up. I'll help you with anything. And he's like, he was an alum at my business school where I was doing my MBA at the time. He's like, well, you got this cool resume. You used to program and be an engineer. We don't need engineers. We need a marketer. And I was like, yeah, that's what I kind of want to learn. And so he just started teaching me how to outreach to journalists and get publicity for this small business. And it was just him and a couple other guys. And I was like, this is crazy. You just get mentioned in Wall Street Journal, just this startup with 3 people. And this is crazy. And he's like, hey, just write this email and this is the pitch. And we send it to 100 people. That was the beginning of it. And then I quickly got into content marketing and started figuring out that, hey, if you write articles, you can make them rank on Google and then you can pull in traffic from Google. And I was like, gosh, that was mind blowing to me. I was like, the traffic from Google and ranking and competition, and you can just, that was the first company which we scaled, where we had a little polling app and we just create these little polls and put them in the news articles. And we would get a lot of people clicking on these polls when they would read the news and take a poll, Xbox 360 versus PS4 or iOS 6 versus iOS 7, bubblegum flavors, whatever, iPhone, different types of iPhones. People would just write about these stuff and put these polls in there. And that was just like such a wild experience with that company that I transitioned to in the sort of like PR space. I would pitch these polls to be included in Forbes and NPR and TechCrunch. And yeah, I kind of got a taste of startup life through some consulting for free, and then eventually got my MBA and started working for startups. And I had a speaker series, so I met more entrepreneurs and kind of got ingrained in the startup community, but kept up with that like PR SEO angle, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that because you've had 4 different businesses, even SEO Jet. Tell us about the most challenging business that you've built, and why was it so challenging?
Well, I think like Just Reach Out was a business that we built, my wife and I built together. And it was something that this was one of the first businesses. It was on my own. And so I didn't know how to build a business purely like a software business on your own. And so I just started making mistakes pretty much from day one. Like I had a partner who was an engineer, and I thought, oh, this is great. This guy says he can code. I can do some marketing PR. This will be a great product. And the product was do your DIY PR, like pitch journalists on your own. And so I didn't understand that like we needed to look further and see like what is his goals for the next 5 years. What are my goals for 5 years? What do we want to do with our lives in the next 5 years? Do we want to like build this company to a certain level, or like does he want to get a job in like a year or two, or like does he want to get married and go traveling with his wife? Like we talked about nothing. It was like, hey, I have this idea. You like it? Cool, let's do it. And so the problem was like we wanted different things in life, like long term. Like sure, for short term, this was a cool project. And so right away I realized like, oh crap, like we're like a year into it, maybe even less. And he was like, I kind of want to go work for like a company. Like I want to do this for a while. I want to go work with Coinbase or whatever. And I was like, oh crap, we didn't really talk about that. Like now what do? I can't really, and like, like now you own a little bit of company and now you want to leave. Like what a mess,
Mm-hmm.
We figured it out. And then the next person I talked to was like, kind of felt like, yeah, this will be great. And he was running like a software development firm, and we partnered up, and he's like, well, I'll give you some engineers. And we kind of like split the company profits and stuff. And I was like, well, that's a great deal. Fantastic. The problem was like, he wasn't really like a hand-on partner. Like he wasn't involved in the business day in, day out. Like he gave me some engineers, and that was great for like an exchange or like partnerships, but it was still, the relationship wasn't like, let's together build this one company. So there were like a lot of hurdles and problems. I feel like learning how to operate businesses and align with people because if you have partners, it's so much harder because you have to align what you want from life. You have to align on like general expectations, your outlook on like different issues in life and world events, even, like all this stuff, because it's like being married to somebody almost, because you're working with them like all the time. So there's a lot of alignment that needs to happen that I think I didn't realize a lot and just learned on the way to kind of. And I've been impatient. So I was like, oh, we achieved a success point. Like it grew 10% or 15%. I was always like, let's just sell the business. It's great. Like it's on the uptick. I would be like, and, eventually you just realize like, no, you just hold on to the business. Like the business grows and you keep investing more effort into it. And then eventually it becomes really, profitable and worthwhile. And it's more valuable in the end for you. But I was always trigger happy trying to figure out like what's next, like maybe selling it, maybe like partnering it with somebody. So lots of like mistakes that I went through in that business. I think it was the hardest. The ones after that were a little easier. So Just Reach Out was the platform for PR outreach, and it was sold SEO Jet. They bought it, and then it was resold to these to the guys who were from Slack. They were founded like on the initial team at Slack when Slack was starting out, and they left, and now they kind of became a little investors group, and they bought the company, and now they operate it and run it, and it's very successful, even more successful now than it was under me. But yeah, I still chat with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of lessons. Thank you for sharing those and being candid about that. For finding the partnerships, I know it's a big one for entrepreneurs, finding the right partners, the co-founders, like finding a right co-founder, right? Because you want somebody to go in with you. Like you said, let's build this together. But a lot of times they don't have buy-in like you do. Like you said, they have different goals, they have different agenda. And so one thing you mentioned is having that conversation, like what's your goal for the next 3-5 years? What are some other insights would you provide for those looking for co-founders and trying to get that alignment with the people they want to build with?
Yeah. So I actually just went through this because I'm starting a new company called Bookkeeply, and it's a company that helps accountants and bookkeepers categorize transactions automatically. So my partner and I, we've known each other for a long time, maybe 6 years or 7 years. And so, we know each other as friends, and we were both in a professional like mastermind group. And when we sat down, I sort of knew how he operates and that he has these other two businesses. But we sat down and, we asked like, what do you want to do? What do I want to do? It's like, for the next 5 years, I want to build this thing, right? Okay, for 5 years, all right. And then from there, we kind of dive deeper and be like, well, what do you want to be doing day in, day out when you work with me? Like, what are you going to be your functions and your responsibility? What are you really good at that you can like say, this is under my umbrella? Like, you can definitely contribute, but this is under my umbrella. For me, it was more marketing, right? So I like content, PR, like reaching out, like these are like my things. Like for him, it's like building product, right? So when we sat down and we kind of grabbed onto those like strong suits, it sort of made sense. Like, oh, okay, so you can focus on building that product. And so then we talked about like, okay, since you're going to be managing that, but you also have these other companies that you have, right? What is going to be your time split on this business versus these other things, right? And then what is your time split between your family, your friends, and your loved ones, your other two businesses, and this, right? How are you going to manage this? And how we're going to align constantly, by weekly calls, bi-weekly calls. And so we just worked with that. We said, all right, well, we're going to have weekly calls, right? And we're each going to, a third of our time or something we'll contribute to this company. And, we're both busy, but if we contribute this much, we're like, okay. And to develop it is going to cost this much, right? How are we going to split the investment, right? Are we going to invest half and half? And then once we kind of go through all those things, the next thing is like, what kind of company are we going to form? And that's really going to dictate how you're going to run the company, right? So you form a C Corp thinking that, hey, C Corps get acquired after 5 years, you pay no federal taxes on C Corp sale. So if you take C Corp and you hold it for 5 years, and you sell it after 5 years, you pay no federal taxes with the small business qualified stock deduction. And so the big winning ticket for forming a C Corp is for 5 years, you're paying double taxation. The company itself has to pay a tax on its profit. And then you as the founder has to pay tax on your dividends after the company itself pays the profit. So there's a profit. The company pays taxes on it. Whatever is left over, you can distribute to you and your partner, and then you have to pay taxes on it as well. So that's almost, it is double taxation. And the winning ticket is like, you've been doing this for 5 years. In the end, you sell the company and you pay no taxes on that sale. So that's the idea behind C Corp. So that aligns with your thinking, like, okay, well, we're going to do this thing, this long, grueling 5 years. In the end, we want to like sell it. Who would we sell it to? So you have to align with your partner around all these things. If you're not going to do a C Corp, All right, well, what are you going to do? LLC. LLC is more of like a regular business where it's like you're just in it for the eternity. It's just this business that's going to be this business is going to earn money. You guys are going to take money out. You're never going to sell it. It's just going to be between you and a few other people. It's just going to be an easy small company. And so there's other ones, there's S Corp and all these other ones, but I think it's useful to align about what entity are you forming? What's your outlook for the next, whatever, 5, 10 years? Why are you building this company? Like, is this going to be, supplemental income? Do you want like an exit here? What are you trying to achieve with it? And then, what are you gonna do? What is he gonna do or she gonna do? And like, how are you guys gonna work day in, day out? What your responsibilities will be? And it's hard. Like sometimes you just don't know. Like you're like, I don't really know what I'll be doing. And that's where you just predict. I mean, and you see how it goes. And it's not clean at all. Like, you predict something and then it's just all these other things come up and you get frustrated that your partner isn't contributing as much or the other partner might not. And it's always like this game where you're trying to realign like, hey, but just being open. And I am also a big fan of just working together without doing the paperwork because the paperwork is like so complex, like so much stuff. Like you form a company, you got to issue stock. If you have a partner, you can't vest all that stock because what if you vest your partner and yourself in and then your partner leaves tomorrow? Now he's got half of your company. So you got to vest the partner over a 4-year period. Mm-hmm. If you're vesting them over a 4-year period, there's certain stipulations with the government that you have to like pay for these vested shares unless you do an 83B election, which is like a lot of stuff to handle. So just before you do any of the stock stuff or formalities of forming, just work with the partner for like 6 months and see how things go. Like maybe it's not a good fit. Maybe you hit an issue that you didn't foresee. Like you're using an API that is closed and they won't let you in, or like it doesn't work certain way. Like there's barriers, right, that you can't overcome. So I always say like, you're forming a business partnership, great. Work for like 6 months on it together, see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I agree because that formality, the paperwork does it's time consuming. It's also pricey, right off the bat. I find it. I've heard that a lot of people they can't find people who wants to work for free because then that's what you would be asking for like the first 6 months, right? Because you don't have the capital to pay them, and so you'd want to come in good faith and says, "This is what we're building. Let's do this together for at least 6 months." And then we can do the formality stuff and then get equities and, aside from the sweat equity.
Yeah. And you don't know where you're heading either. You don't know within 6 months if you're going to have a finished product that you can offer people and make any money, or maybe you have another 6 months of iteration and getting feedback from people. So aligning some of those expectations and seeing like, when are we going to earn money with this thing? Like in 6 months, let's just think. How much money can we earn in this first year? How much money can we earn in the next year? Let's update our forecast, just knowing where you're headed. And at the end of every quarter, just sitting down and be like, okay, well, we got a quarter of the product done. Like maybe by the next end of the quarter, we'll get the second half, like whatever done. And then we'll ship on quarter 3 and then gather feedback. And maybe we'll earn like $3,000 by the end of the year in the quarter 4. Like, okay, let's make that forecast and let's see if we can march to that. And then what does the next year look like so that you're just aligned, and you can expect, and you're like, okay, well, if that's the forecast, well, gosh, I'm going to have a second job and like really like supplement this. So that'll impact how much I contribute to this, but I still want to, but I got to have this other job to feel fulfilled so that things don't just come up and they kind of like, we're just working on something together and it'll be great whenever it's launched. It's like the expectation is very like up in the air. So then like, I'm thinking like next month and it's actually like end of the year. And it's like, I'm thinking we're going to start earning money in 4 months and it's actually not this year at all. It's next year. It's like, you're like, oh man, like this sucks. You really get disappointed or something like that.
Yeah, that is the startup world, though. That is the startup entrepreneur world. Is there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unknowns, and that's what drives a lot of people. Like they thrive on that in that space, and for some others, it scares them away. So,
Yes.
for you personally, I know you're a serial entrepreneur, and you've been super successful in all the startups that you've had. How do you prioritize SEO, PR, and content marketing in early stage startup?
So I'm like a lifestyle entrepreneur, more or less, versus like your generic mainstream entrepreneurs who are just working 24/7, the culture of 80 hours a week. Like I gravitate completely to the other end. I work 25 hours a week, spend the rest of it with my loved ones, my family and friends. And so as a result, I start these businesses as lifestyle apps and services and software products, and I sell them to people and I run it as a lifestyle business. So I do think with SEO and PR, it used to be, and it still is, the cornerstone of sort of discovery, all right, on the web. There's been a lot of talk about AI replacing Google results, and a lot of people are speaking about, people are switching completely to AI LLM platforms, and ChatGPT made a big splash, and DeepSeek came out, and Perplexity and Bard and Gemini, and like all these things are just like making waves. And at the end of the day, most of these things, right? They're just an easy way to discover information. They're just crawling the web. They're just learning things from the web, from authoritative websites. And so in order to get your brand seen, your visibility, and this is something with Mangles, we created a visibility tracker. So it's called AI Search Grader. But really what it does, you punch in a term or you punch in your brand's name and a term, and it'll tell you how visible you are on ChatGPT. What it does is just scans all these different prompts related to your brand, and it says, hey, here's the visibility for your brand across all these different prompts. Like say it was best morning routine. So it's like best business podcasts, right? And you put in best morning routine podcast. And you can see on ChatGPT if your podcast is showing up across like 15 or 20 different related prompts to that main keyword that I said. And so where is that pulling from? It's pulling from different sources like authoritative websites and publications where you've been mentioned before, or somebody's linked to you, or somebody's promoted you, because that's how LLMs sort of base their answers a lot, is like on other sources. So where can you get featured? Where can you get a link from? Which community? So I think it's as important as ever been to find communities where your people hang out. And so that's really important to have that and be able to know how to outreach to these communities, whether it's a newsletter, a meetup, or maybe it's a publication or a podcast. These are all the different avenues, maybe social media following, a Reddit thread, a YouTube channel where your people hang out. Because if you get mentioned, ChatGPT, OpenAI is just crawling everything all the time. And with Search GPT, it's a little bit cleaner output. So you see like the actual results a little cleaner. You can see who's ranking a little better. With ChatGPT, it's a little bit tougher to see. But in general, I think PR is really important now and more than ever to front up on ChatGPT, to be able to show up there. You need to get mentioned in these publications. And so it's an important part. And SEO also, if you're ranking in the top spots, just next time on ChatGPT, just if you get an answer, you say, how did you find out this answer? How did you come up with this answer? What are the sources you use for this answer? And ChatGPT will just show you, like right there, what are the sources it's using for that answer. So you can tell, oh, okay, so it used these 7 websites to come up with this answer. And you can even say on scale of 0 to 100, 100 most important, 0 least important. How important is it to be featured on these sources in order to front up for this prompt on ChatGPT? And I'll tell you, take it with a grain of salt, but still, it gives you an idea of what you should be doing PR wise to show up on these AI platforms, because you just ask it, because it has the data where it pulled the answer from. It even like cites it as sources underneath sometimes.
And that's the difference too, with PR. It used to be newspaper, like as was when you started out, right? It's reaching out to these newspapers to get featured in Times newspaper. But now it's more digital. It's using AI to for PRs and getting journal articles put out. So there's that shift that has also occurred with the way PR used to be done, let's say 20, 15 years ago compared to now. What have you seen in terms of the shift? Is it easier or harder to be noticed, to be recognized as let's say, a startup in this day and age?
I think, yeah. So there is a lot of that content that is being improved and optimized with AI. And so the articles get rewritten and improved with AI. I think still there's a term called information gain, which Bernard Fong from ClearScope defined, and I think he really didn't define it. It's a patent that Google has, but he popularized the term. And information gain technically means original content that has not been presented to people before. So if we're talking about best morning routines, it is something that nobody's ever said before, that is very unique about this one thing. Like, I don't know, I get up and I have 17 glasses of water while I'm doing a headstand or something. Like, nobody's ever done that before. This guy, somebody says that and he makes some kind of claim or whatever. So if that's not in Google's knowledge graph, if that is not in OpenAI's sort of learning set of data, then it's something new. And so when it's something new like that, then that is signal versus noise that will start ranking more so on Google and Bing and ChatGPT, more so than your generic article that's going to cover the best morning routine with generic specific advice that is already in Google's knowledge graph. And so the argument was create content that has information gain, because if you don't get the visibility, because Google's algorithm and OpenAI's algorithm and all these different AI platforms and Bing, they want new stuff that is going to shake up the knowledge base. And so I've seen that generally helps. I know that the format of the content also helps a lot in ranking. So, for example, if the top 5 articles on Google are listicles for best tools for monitoring your sleep and waking up or something, and they're just listicles, well, if you create a definitive comparison between all these 5 listicles and list customer reviews on each tool and see and compare the customer ratings and the pricing and do a sort of breakdown of all that, even if you use ChatGPT to do it, it's useful and something brand new that's not out there. And you've created something that's much more legible and easier to understand and make a decision from. And then your brand is going to start ranking. And it doesn't matter if your authority is lower than what is already ranking there, because you've created something new. You've created information gain. And so therefore, from the patent of Google, you are, contributing to the knowledge base in a positive way. So you deserve to have that visibility. And once you rank on Google and on Bing, it correlates with the OpenAI knowledge graph as well. So that learning, it'll take some time because the learning data is uploaded every 6 months. I forget what the dates are, but OpenAI isn't like live all the time with ChatGPT. But with SearchGPT, things are a little different. It acts a little bit like a search. And so things are updated a bit more. Of course, on Google and Bing, you'll see yourself fronted up a little higher. But yeah, that's how I kind of think about visibility and visibility in the age of AI. It's still, you're using AI as a assistant to help you improve the results and content out there. So if you think the content is crappy or is like overwhelming, not crappy, but overwhelming, maybe there's so much information, how you deduce what's important from all these things, how to create a visual, then you can use that and then create that new thing that's going to rank. So as long as you're creating something new and better than what's there before, whether it's content or products, usually you deserve a chance to rank, and it works out most of the time.
Yeah. Does that go for new products, novel products?
Yeah, I think like with products, it also works that way. I would say it really depends. The content works that way better than products. So new products have to have links, visibility, reviews from customers. So like products are associated with reviews. And so whether it's a software product or like an e-commerce product, if there's no reviews behind this product, it's not going to be fronted up a lot. And if the reviews are very negative also. So OpenAI, I mean, they're scanning Reddit, Capterra, G2, Trustpilot, like all these different review websites to see if that product is there. And then it bases things, and then it's authoritative websites that are mentioning the product, right? And so if you're trying to get the product seen as like the best tools for monitoring your heart rate, right? Then it's like, oh gosh, you really need to get like 100 reviews on Amazon or whatever, like on another website. Then that's the game basically you're playing, is trying to get a bunch of authoritative websites mentioning it, trying to get those reviews on that platform for your product. So they're a little bit different than like novelty or something for originality of content, because information gain is like, it's a little bit easier. You spend a couple of weeks, you create something that's a little bit prettier and more legible and easier to understand, you publish it and you start ranking for it. With a product, you spend 6 months building it, you invest thousands of dollars, you launch, and then you get feedback. And it's like, you also get feedback as you build it too. But once you launch, you really start getting even more feedback, and then you revise it and improve it until it's really good. So it's a much slower sort of iteration.
Yeah. For the information gain, now I know you've scaled polar polls up to 40 million plus monthly page views. Was that one of the tactics?
Yeah. So at the time, Polar Polls was just a little polling app. You just like put in 2 images in it, and then you just create a question on top. Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts. Which one do you like? Xbox or PS4 or whatever it is. And so when we came up with the app, we were like, what do we do? Like people kind of create these polls, but they kind of don't, right? And so the idea for me was, well, there's all these articles that are like just like trending, right? And people come and read the article and they never leave comments. They just kind of leave, but they get a lot of hits. Like you see a lot of views on them. If you put this poll on there, I bet a lot of people would vote on that question and it would stay on the article longer. So I started reaching out to journalists. I'm like, hey, you wrote this article about like Tim Cook leaving Apple. Like, want to put in this poll I created? Like, is he going to leave or not? And they're like, why would I do that? And I'm like, people would stay on the page longer. And so eventually people caught on. They're like, oh, okay. So they would create 6, 7, 10 polls at a time, and it'd be one after the other. And the time on site went up. And so they're like, yes. And so then NPR reached out to us, and MLB and NBA, and we started getting like all the Hertz publications and Forbes, and things just went kind of wild because they would like improve time on site. People would see more ads. That was the name again, with like doing the banner ads back then, right? because people were still, this was not the age of like paid subscriptions for newspapers or online publications. So people, they made money from ads, little that they made, but they still did make some. So the tactic was a new format for the news interaction, basically. So it was like, I read 3-4 paragraphs and then I engage with like a cool poll, right? And so the idea was like, we present this new way to kind of digest information and make it fun. And so it was like political news and sports news and culture, and it worked well. I wouldn't say like, it wasn't like information gain. It was like completely something new, but it was something that was novel in terms of like improving the experience. And the rankings really, the traffic, those 40 million page views, it was our actual polls being taken. We counted that as a page view. So anytime somebody voted yes or no on the poll, we'd say that's a page view for us. So we're basically, quote unquote, taking traffic from these publications, like New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Forbes that have millions of people reading them, and taking a little sliver of them and seeing our polls, in these publications. But yeah, it worked out really well because you'd open up your analytics, you'd see, millions of people taking your polls, and you'd be like, my God, that is wild, We never were able to figure out, from what I remember, how to monetize it, because we tried. We did all sorts of different things, but yeah, Google bought it because I think the thinking was they used to have this thing called Google Plus, and they were going to integrate it into that. At that time, I don't know, never happened, or maybe it did, but Google Plus was shut down. So
yeah, very nice. Yeah, that's different. I didn't know that. So let's talk about your morning routine. How do you get up, dress up, and show up?
Well, I get up 6:30, 6:45, usually looking forward to walking my kids to school pretty much every morning. It's cold out here, but I love it. Whether it's cold or it's raining or it's snowing, we're going to be walking to school. It's about a 10-minute, 15-minute walk there, 15-minute back. But get up, I usually have like 2-3 glasses of water as my very first thing, get dressed, come down and help make breakfast for the kids. And then they can help them like pack lunches. Once that's done, get dressed. My son usually leaves first, then my daughter, and I'll walk with them to school with one of them. Chat with some parents on the way in, chat with some parents on the way back. Come back. I usually have like a smoothie and go to CrossFit. And so pretty much every day. And then after CrossFit, come back home, change, shower, and then have like another meal snack. And then I'm pretty good to start working. It's probably around 11 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. And then from then on, from 10:30 till like about now 3:30 or so, I'll work. And then my wife will go get the kids. If they need to be picked up later, I'll go pick them up. But if they have nothing after school, she'll pick them up. And then I'll just do homework the rest of the day with them and hang out and do dinner. But that's my regular morning routine. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink tea, really. I don't have a huge breakfast. I really don't really have anything until I walk the kids to school, come back. But that's pretty usual for me. Even if I'm like traveling or doing something else or on vacation, still get up around 7, still have a shake or like a smoothie, green smoothie before CrossFit every morning. It just wakes me up. CrossFit kind of like, yeah.
It's a jolt. It's a jolt. I do CrossFit too. I do a 5 a.m. class.
Ooh, wow, you're hardcore. I do like 9. I'm like 5 a.m. I like the crusher. Like they'll crush it all when they do the groups. Like 5 a.m. just crushes everybody because they just show up 5 a.m. when we have a competition or some, or just do the open,
Yeah, we've competed as well. I started about a year and a half ago, and I freaking love it. I used to do marathon running and lots of running and triathlon. And then I started CrossFit a year and a half ago, almost 2 years. And I haven't looked back since. Just love everything about it. But it wakes you up. And like the amount of weight I can lift, if I tell you, you'll be like, no way. But then that's CrossFit. That's what happens. You just get strong.
Yeah, it's great. It's fun. Yeah. You gotta make sure you don't injure yourself. In my age, I'm like super careful now. But I just went to Power Monkey, which is a CrossFit camp for CrossFitters once a year. I love it. I've done 2 of them already. So you sign up and you go, and for a whole week you do CrossFit with Olympians and like CrossFit athletes, and they teach you each movement, 2 hours workshops, and then there's fun. Like you have a team, you do workouts. The CrossFit Open chef cooks the meals for you. It's in a camp. You live in a cabin. It's fantastic. But there's a guy I met from San Diego, Jaeger, and he has a gym called Jaeger's Gym. And I know his last name, big guy, older. He's like, I don't know, 60s or something. He was in my group and he ran a CrossFit in San Diego. So I was like, oh, so I thought of him, but he just said he would CrossFit.
Yeah, no, and I don't know that one. I did. There's 2 gyms that I've done out here, but his is not one of them. Not yet anyway. We've been local. There's a lot of gyms out here. The community is pretty big. Pretty big out here. Yeah.
Check out Power Monkey. I really enjoyed it for these last couple of years. It's around September that they do this. I think there's one in spring too, in April. Mm-hmm. It's a fun time.
Fun, yeah. Thank you for sharing your morning routine, and you prioritize, time with the kiddos and family, which is great because then you take care of yourself, and then so you can show up to take care of them and also run your businesses. That's the power of the morning routine, right? It gives us that energy, that flexibility, so that we show up happy and focused, so we're productive and not just like running around flustered.
It's hard to get into, it's easy to get into these like loops where you're just like, oh, same thing. I just need something different. Like this is just killing me. I need something different. A lot of times, I'll just like brush my teeth with my left hand, or like only my left hand to eat with utensils, drink water. Totally screws with your mind, or even if you're walking to work or driving, just take a completely different route. Just to make sure you're like using all the synapses in there.
Because we do go on autopilot. Those are habits, right? You drive home. Sometimes you don't know how you got there, but your brain knows your route for you, that it takes you home. And so, we want to kind of trick the brain to step out of that, so we can, as you say, use more of the synapses and make the neural connections.
It's hard. Try texting with your left hand, like if you're a righty, or like the other way around. If you're a lefty, try texting right. It's like, you're like, whoa, am I on the flip phone again where you have to do the 3 buttons? But I feel good after, I don't know. I feel like I accomplished something. Maybe it's just...
New electrical connections have been made.
I guess so.
Dmitry, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. Please tell us, how can we connect with you? Where can we find you?
You can go topicranker.com. That's my current website, topicranker.com. You'll see my bio there. Or criminallyprolific.com. That's my personal site where I list all the interviews and things that I do. So
very nice. Thank you again for taking the time. It's been such a pleasure having you on today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right, morning enthusiasts, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you love the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes or Google Play. While you're at it, tell a friend about the show. Be sure to visit bestmorningroutineever.com and our Facebook group to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic free bonus content. Until next time,